What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Conor McGregor breaks silence on UFC return. Former two-division UFC champion Conor McGregor joined some of the biggest combat sports stars in the world at Saudi Arabia this weekend to attend the Francis Ngannou vs. Tyson Fury boxing match. With McGregor now officially registered in the USADA testing pool, fans have been eagerly awaiting news on when the former champ will return to the octagon. While speaking to media members at the Ngannou vs. Fury event this weekend, McGregor gave an update regarding the timeline for his return after being asked whether he would be interested in headlining the UFC's Fight Night in Saudi Arabia in March.
March is earlier than April. I've been kept from my living for almost 3 years now. Understand that. I came through what I came through. I'm sitting on an injury and a loss. You imagine what that. You hear what Alexander Volkanovski said. I relate. You know what I'm saying? I must return to my way of living. This is my job. So it's beyond frustrating.
Although the UFC and USADA are set to go their separate ways in the new year, the indication is that McGregor will go through the 6 months of testing required before returning to action. Although putting McGregor on the Saudi Arabia Fight Night card will undoubtedly be huge, it's more likely that the UFC books a fight between he and Michael Chandler for UFC 300. Next up, let's take a look at Israel Adesanya reveals bad news. Israel Adesanya was one of the most active champions in UFC history during his reign. After losing 2 of his last 3, however, the last stylebender claims that he's going to take a page out of Jon Jones' book and take several years off before returning to action. Adesanya, who worked out with Francis Ngannou alongside Kamaru Usman in Saudi Arabia this weekend, spoke with media members about his return. After previously stating that he was going to take some time off, the former champ recalled the swarm of messages and notifications that followed.
Literally, I was getting so many messages. I woke up, I was getting tagged in so many things, and I'm just like, all these messages, I'm like, yo, I'm not dead. I'm not retired, man. Calm down. I'm alive. I'm still kicking, so yeah, we here.
After being asked if fans will see him back in action next year, Adesanya responded,
2027.
Okay.
2027, look for the return. I'll see you there.
From the sounds of things, many believe the former middleweight champ was simply joking around and will be back in action sooner rather than later. Of course, first, Khamzat Chimaev is expected to get a crack at middleweight champion Sean Strickland after his UFC 294 win over Kamaru Usman. Next up, let's take a look at Jon Jones should be stripped of UFC title? According to former UFC heavyweight Brendan Schaub, the UFC shouldn't bother making an interim heavyweight title fight between Sergey Pavlovich and Tom Aspinall in replacement of Jon Jones and Stipe Miocic. Given the nature of the injury that forced Jones out of the upcoming UFC 295 card, Schaub feels that the UFC should have stripped him of the title. Speaking during a recent video for his YouTube channel, Schaub opened up on the injury and Jones' return.
Jon Jones tore his pec. And I don't mean like a slight tear. They're saying he tore his pec off the bone. If you know anything about these injuries, which I do, I've had pec issues. I've had many of friends who were professional athletes who have torn their pec. And when it's completely torn off the bone, this is not a fast turnaround time. When your champ's out at least a year with this injury, there should not be an interim title fight. That it should just be the vacant belt.
While many questioned why Miocic didn't take an interim title fight against either Aspinall or Pavlovich, the UFC never offered him the fight. As Dana White stated, a fight between Miocic and Jones is for legacy, and it needs to happen. Despite that, Miocic was devastated to learn that the fight was off. As he explained to MMA Fighting, "How did I feel when I woke up today? Like I got kicked in the groin in the morning. I woke up to my phone vibrating. It was dark. I had my son on top of me, trying to move and get my phone. I finally got my phone and had a text message from my manager saying my fight was off. I couldn't sleep the rest of the night." While the two men will compete with one another after Jones heals, it'll likely be some time before we have a timeline for the fight. Now, let's shift gears and take a look at Vince McMahon breaks silence on Dana White relationship. Dana White recently shed some light on his rocky past with WWE head Vince McMahon. As White explained, McMahon had gone out of his way to make his life difficult in the past. Despite that, with the UFC and the WWE united under one company now, White explained that the past is all water under the bridge. During a recent interview while in Saudi Arabia for the highly anticipated Tyson Fury vs. Francis Ngannou boxing match, McMahon was asked about working with White after so many years of being competitors.
I don't do business that way. I don't bust anybody's chops unless they get in the way. But Dana and I do get along very, very well. He's really a good guy. We're good partners and good businessmen. We're good businessmen, we get along.
Later in the interview, when Mark Calloway, also known as The Undertaker, spoke about the similarities between White and McMahon, he stated that both were good businessmen, with McMahon jumping in and clarifying that he's the better businessman. From the sounds of things, the two entities will remain totally separate, meaning that there shouldn't be any stepping on toes. Next, let's take a look at Ian Garry kicked out of MMA gym. As Ian Garry continues to climb the UFC's welterweight rankings, he won't be training at Team Renegade in Birmingham, England. With both welterweight champion Leon Edwards and Garry gearing up for UFC 296 fights in December, Garry will be doing the rest of his training elsewhere. While speaking in an interview with The Independent, Garry explained that although Edwards sits atop the division, he's gearing up to fight number 9 ranked Vicente Luque, leading him to wonder what the conflict of interest is at this stage. Leon Edwards, his head coach, asked me not to come back to Renegade, told me I'm not allowed to train there. It was great energy. Tom and Ash were very welcoming, lovely, and nice to me. It was nothing to do with them. Leon and his head coach had an issue with me training on the mats and recently have asked me not to train there because Leon doesn't want any insecurities or doubts on his own mats within the gym, which I don't fully understand. As he went on to explain, with both he and Edwards gearing up for big fights, it makes sense for the pair to push one another on the mats rather than distance themselves from one another. With the undefeated Garry looking to climb the welterweight rankings, a win over Luque could likely put him in a spot to fight up a top-ranked contender in pursuit of UFC gold. Next, let's take a look at Alexander Volkanovski reveals UFC plan. While Alexander Volkanovski has maintained his desire to compete against Ilia Topuria in January, many fans and Islam Makhachev believe that the featherweight kingpin should take some time off. In a recent video for his YouTube channel, Volkanovski shared some insight into his mindset after the loss, explaining that after speaking to doctors, he's set on defending his featherweight title in Canada come January.
A lot of people go, he needs a break, I don't need a break. I want to get back in camp. Obviously I need to talk to doctors, make sure there's no concussion, the stitches and whatnot, but I want to get in camp. Like I said, I'm the best version of myself inside and outside of the cage when I have clear direction. And clear direction is me having a fight, and I think January still looks great to me. Ilia Topuria obviously is a very exciting fight.
The fight between the two will see Volkanovski look to secure his 6th featherweight title defense while handing Topuria his first professional loss. While the fight has yet to be announced by the UFC, opening odds after Volkanovski's title defense against Yair Rodriguez had the champ as a negative 240 favorite over Topuria, who was a plus 200 underdog at the time. After his latest loss, it'll be interesting to see what the odds look like for a fight between the two going forward. Next, let's take a look at MMA community slams judges in Francis Ngannou versus Tyson Fury. Francis Ngannou shocked the world in Saudi Arabia, not only by knocking down Tyson Fury, but also going the distance with the heavyweight champ in a truly technical contest that saw both men find success. While many thought that the Predator would either land a big shot early or gas out, he showed composure and high boxing IQ as he dominated the clinch and picked his shots. Despite a big knockdown, after 10 hard-fought rounds, it was Tyson Fury who was named the winner by a split decision. The fight and controversial scorecards drew a number of reactions from the MMA community. Henry Cejudo reacted to the fight, writing, "The biggest upset in combat sports history. Francis Ngannou just became the lineal world heavyweight boxing champion." Glover Teixeira was quick to name Ngannou the baddest man on the planet after that performance, writing, "That's why he's the baddest man on the planet." Nate Diaz reacted to the decision and the commentary, writing, "Tyson Fury lost and the boxing commentary biased as dumb. They need to learn how to box." While speaking in an interview with TNT Sports, Conor McGregor shared his thoughts on the decision, stating,
Lovely shot coming in the back of the head, more off balance as well, but yeah, fair play to Tyson. He's a tough man as well, strong chin. And Jesus, Ngannou's a powerful boy as well. Tyson couldn't hurt him. Tyson could not hurt him. He was just missing with that backhand. Great fight, great to watch. Heavyweight boxing is exciting.
Former UFC welterweight champion Kamaru Usman also shared his thoughts on the bout with the Mac Life.
He felt Francis' power, so he just decided to point fight and dance around the rest of the round. But this is boxing. This is what they do.
Four-time NBA champion LeBron James was also quick to share his thoughts on the bout and the decision, writing, "Exactly why I don't watch boxing. Come on, man." Given how close the fight was, it's safe to say that the combat sports community is eager to see these two run things back once again. The MMA community goes off on Dana White for not believing that Francis would get the fight with Tyson Fury or do as good as he did. Here's what the fans had to say. "Remember when people actually believed this in January? Idiots."
I think Francis is in a place right now where he doesn't want to take a lot of risk. He's got it in his head that there's bigger opportunities outside the UFC with you know, lesser opponents.
Dana White after seeing Francis Ngannou go toe-to-toe with the best heavyweight boxer in the world and drop him. Dana White when someone asks him about Francis Ngannou at the next press conference. Francis bet on himself and he was right. Dana screwed up losing a superstar. Now I'm in a position where I can't watch boxing because it's rigged, and Francis doesn't fight in the UFC where I'd love to continue watching his progression as the baddest man on the planet. Look, Dana's always going to spin his own narrative on things. He understands gaslighting in the way that if he says something often enough, the people can't think for themselves will start believing regardless of what reality dictates. Dana was mad when he got the fight. Now he's mad that Francis actually went out and really won the fight. LOL. Definitely did better than any MMA fighter has done in boxing. Francis is a good dude. He's also much better without the UFC. Top comments. I predicted this to be an incredibly lopsided fight in favor of Fury. As an MMA fan, I've never been happier to be so wrong. The first time I've seen an MMA boxing crossover and not get secondhand embarrassed. Even Diaz with the rabbit punches like he is returning a ping pong. Ngannou was solid and collected. If he grinds that diamond further and works on accuracy and timing, the rematch against Fury won't go to the judges. Dana is punching air like no man in history. Fury lost to someone who hasn't ever been in the boxing ring professionally ever. I'll be honest, I doubted Ngannou after his UFC departure. Didn't think he could land any major deals and didn't think his gas tank would hold. But here he is scoring 10 mil minimum, not including pay-per-view, and going toe-to-toe with one of the best. Make sure to leave a comment and you might get featured in our next video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to never miss any MMA news. Check out our video from yesterday if you missed it. See you tomorrow.